with you. May this message speak to both our intellects and our hearts as well. You listened to the Old Testament lesson, and it's really the beginning of the story of Solomon. And he is an incredible character to study. If you just read those 8 chapters, 1 Kings 2 through 10, it's a nice, beautiful chunk, and you learn pretty much the whole story of Solomon. And actually, in the Old Testament, it's one of the few places historically that much is written about Solomon. There are legends, and I've read all of those things, and they're fun, but you can get a really great education on Solomon in just those 8 chapters. Now, also in the book of Chronicles, pretty much the same story is told. And there is much to be gleaned from his story that is of immense spiritual nourishment for our own lives and how we live. Solomon was the 3rd king of Israel. He was the wisest, the richest, the best known. This guy never had a dream that was unfulfilled. Everything in terms of the earth was fulfilled for him. But in the end, everything collapses. He becomes pretty much nothing. He is known in the very end as the wisest of all fools. His leadership now, as his kingship will be passed along to his first son, Rehoboam, will set Israel into a period of erosion. And they will go from being the most influential nation on the face of the earth to near extinction. And so Solomon is by far one of the most interesting of all biblical characters to study in terms of contrast. And I want to go 3 directions with this. Everybody likes when I do it just in 3 parts. Everybody gets nervous if it's 4 parts. They think it'll be too long. I always keep it at 3. But I just want to take you and give you a flavor of this person, first of all, in his rise. And I want to draw you into the fact that there's nobody that had it all like he had. Then secondly, I'd like to reflect and try to draw us into what's really important and what leads to his decline. And to wrestle with that. And then thirdly, I'm going to let you see Mark stick it to Mark. And invite you to stick yourself and to go away with a changed spirit today. First of all, his rise to the person in this world that absolutely had everything, no dream unfulfilled. Solomon's the son of David and Bathsheba. And we have just read in that Old Testament lesson that David has passed away. He's gone to sleep with his ancestors, and he's buried in the city of David. The ascent then to who will be the next king is vitally, vitally important. And there are many sons that David had because he had many wives. And there's really a jockeying for position in terms of who will be the next king. And so the prophet Nathan, who is the one who's really nailed David for his sin of murdering Uriah and then taking Bathsheba to be his wife, has somehow connected his relationship with Bathsheba, and the 2 of them want her son Solomon to be king. And they get David away, and they talk to him about this, and David is convinced that Solomon should be the next king. I would love to be able to read behind the texts. because this prophet Nathan has such an interesting story. What has been his relationship with Bathsheba? I don't think I'll get to know the full story. Make a great novel. In heaven, it's one of those stories I'd like to read about. And there's really intrigue in the courts of the king on this one. But when David says, yes, he's going to be king, Nathan, the prophet, jumps right in and coronates him right there. Done. It's over. And so Bathsheba's position in the kingdom now is secured. And Solomon will actually bring another throne to be right by his throne so his mother can be there to advise him. But then the first big story we've heard, and it's the beautiful one of God coming to Solomon out of respect for the faith that his father had. And God says to Solomon, I'll give you what you want. What do you want? He asks for a discerning heart to judge and to rule and to guide God's people. And God is so impressed with this thing. He says, I'm not just going to give you that. I'm going to give you wealth. I'm going to give you riches. I'm going to give you power. I'm going to give you fame. There will never be another king quite like you. Now, isn't that quite a start? An amazing start to your life. And as it happens, he just uses everything. Rather than taking a nation that's been in the hole and trying to bring it up to level and go someplace, he's got a nation that's solid, and he builds from that point on. And Israel has the securest time in its history. Solomon's fame in terms of his wisdom is worldwide. People come from all over the world to experience his wisdom and his discernment and his understanding. If you'll read those 8 chapters, one of the first stories is that one where 2 women bring babies to Solomon. One is dead and one is living. And they're arguing to see who is the mother of the living child, and his discernment and his wisdom to figure out who the mother is. Read that story. It's amazing. But Solomon writes over 3,000 parables. He writes 1,005 songs. We have in the Old Testament, in the wisdom literature section, the Song of Solomon. We have the Ecclesiastes. This is something that I'll bet you didn't know. He's the world's first and foremost botanist. Did you know that? He has an affinity for plant life and things that grow, and there probably has never been a botanist like him. And what I'm trying to do is get you into the largeness and a person that really has absolutely everything. Let's talk about wealth for a second. Can you imagine importing over 60,000 of the best horses around the world? We have a few horse people in our congregation. I think 1 or 2 is probably the 2 biggest pets to ever take care of in your life. They have 60,000 of them. I can't even imagine it. He has over 6,000 chariots. In his day, do you know what a chariot was? It was like an Abrams tank. It was the highest technology for warfare. And he would build cities along the trade routes and station these chariots and these horses. And a caravan could not move from the south to the north or the north to the south without him stopping them and doing what? Collecting taxes. His wealth grows and grows and grows, and it's beyond our wildest dreams. This is a fun story. I'm trying to get your head into this one. The Queen of Sheba comes up to have her deepest thoughts discerned by Solomon. And she is, she comes from Yemen all the way up. And whenever they would come to Solomon, they'd bring a gift. You know what her gift was? 4.5 tons of gold. Get your head into this thing. What's the price of an ounce of gold? I don't know. Does anybody know? About what? 1,700. Is that what it is? And then, there's how many ounces in a pound?
144,000 ounces.
And we have the actuary here.
144,000 ounces.
This is the most amazing deacon in the world. And okay, then think of these gold bars, and then how many pounds in a ton, and there's 4.5 tons. All I can say is it's a lot, and I'll bet she didn't carry it in her purse. What would it take just to transport that? Are you getting the idea of how much this king has been given? And then we move from there, and this part I just can't fathom. 700 wives. Some of that was, for trade or treaty purposes. But, I feel a little sorry for poor Solomon. If he only was given just one hot wife like mine, he would have been happy. Sorry, Barbie. Smoking hot wife. I love And then on top of that, 300 concubines. You getting the bigness of all this whole thing? I was reading one commentator, and this is a little tongue-in-cheek. And guys, you have to kind of wonder about this. What would you do with 1,000 women? And the commentator made these 3 little points, and it was really tongue-in-cheek. And he was saying that the kings back then and the men of old had a lot more testosterone. But secondly, it was the treaties that were arranged for. But really, it was for a king to be able to just parade his wealth and his power. And so this was some of the background to these enormous harems. And Solomon has probably one of the biggest ones there is. He rebuilds cities. The enormity of everything that he has and what he does is amazing. His greatest accomplishment is the building of the temple in Jerusalem. For 480 years since the Exodus, God's habitation with his nomadic people has been a tent, a tabernacle. And now God is going to be built by Solomon, who loves God at this point and does it out of the purity of his relationship with God, the most magnificent temple that the world has seen. And listen to the enormity of this and the complexity of this. There are over 30,000 log cutters go to work in the cedars of Lebanon. Imagine organizing 30,000 log cutters. But then you imagine the enormity of this. 22,000 workers, 80,000 stone cutters, and he gets the job done between 6, 8, and 10 years. And then the dedication of this temple. Like when we came here to the Edwards Chapel, there's a wonderful dedication. But here's how Solomon, over the top, dedicates the temple. A 15-day celebration. The whole world is invited. 22,000 cattle are sacrificed. 120,000 sheep and goats are sacrificed. You can read all about all of this stuff in those 8 chapters. It's really a fun read. And commentators say, well, the writer might be embellishing this a bit. And, this writer had done the math and measured out the minutes. It meant that there had to be a sacrifice that was complete every 15 seconds. So maybe these numbers are inflated somewhat, but all of this is intended for us to take a look at. A person that is so abundantly blessed that what else? What else is there? But we see a decline. Wouldn't you think that he, with all of these gifts, being the wisest, the richest, the most powerful, the most one reputation that would last for all, wouldn't you think there would be a happiness of heart in this? Here's the mistake that's made. He enters into an erosion process and leaves the very foundation of all these blessings. He begins to depart from the giver of life and becomes a worshiper of the things of life. If you read the other writings of Solomon, he's rather a depressed character. Because as he goes farther and farther away from God, away from the faith that his father had remained faithful all his days to, he becomes more and more depressed and saddened. And some of his writings just make you want to curl up and die. The one who has it all, as he begins to walk away from his relationship with God, will end up with absolutely nothing. Gold, silver, fame, reputation, pride comes into this. And this is the natural thing with this kind of wealth and success, is that he quite likely begins to think of himself as God. And he's made the mistake that true fulfillment is only when one is in relationship and singleness of heart to God. When Rabbi Jesus would come, and he would put his hand into his pocket and not have so much as 2 coins to rub together, he would speak these sentences. How hard is it for a man to enter the kingdom of God than a camel to go through the eye of a needle? For what would it profit a man to gain the whole world, forfeit his soul? And these wonderful words that Father Brooks reminded me of. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. And then everything else after that you need will be given to you. He loses the priority. In the second lesson, did you remember, as Carolyn read it to us, the first line? It's beautiful. It says, be careful how you live your life. What if someone could have come to Solomon and said, how's your life really going? Is this what it's really about? Or is it really about being a child of God, being loved? I did points 1 and 2. Did you get them? Big this thing was. Did you get the second one? Here's the third one. I hope you've been waiting for this. You're going to get to watch Mark stick it to Mark. Our lake place, northern Minnesota, our neighbors, we just absolutely love them. Bob and Joni Sheffield. It's Barbie's second cousin, and Bob was a school administrator in Wisconsin for his whole career. Principal, tells the most wonderful stories. We have a great relationship. In the late afternoons, before dinner, we like to sit and have what Episcopalians call, what's that, Bruce? Hospitality hour. Let's have a drink before dinner, visiting. And we always had one summer where we had challenged each other to see who could read more pages on Civil War history. I think we both got up to about 18, and then we talked about things. Really fun. Oh gosh, he's a fun friend. But At one of our hospitality times, he comes and he gives me this stick. And he says, think of that as your life. Okay. And where are you on that? So that's pretty much all he said. You had to start doing some thinking for yourself. And I started thinking, well, my mom lived to 92. We're going to celebrate my dad's 95th birthday, October 28th. Can you imagine that? And baptized at American Lutheran Church, Sun City, on Reformation Sunday, his newest great-granddaughter. And they've asked yours truly to be the Reformation preacher that Sunday. I'm really honored to be asked. And I'm thinking, well, I wonder if I'll make it to 90. What if this is my life? And here's birth, and here's 90. Well, here's kind of half. And here's what Bob did. He said, where are you at? Okay, you kind of make the guess, and maybe I'm right about here. And I went right there. He grabbed the stick. He said, that's about all you've got left. Boy, is that getting sticked. And then we began, because we're close to the same age. What's really important in this later part of our life? What kind of legacy is it that we are interested to leave behind? And are not the things that aren't material, like being two lucky people who God has come into our lives and being given the families that we've been given, and to be faithful, and to realize that while all of these worldly gifts were heaped upon Solomon, God has given us a gift that's more precious than anything else. The gift of his Son, Jesus Christ. I think one of the hymns I'll have at my funeral is African American Negro Spiritual. It is so haunting and beautiful, and can't be sung by anybody but an African American. It's called Give Me Jesus. You can have this whole world, but when it comes to the end, give me Jesus. And so you have a treasure, people, that is far greater than anything that was given to Solomon, who seemed to have every worldly thing, but he ended without God in his heart. You and I have been given the opportunity to have God in Jesus Christ in our hearts and in our lives. I'm not going to stick this to anybody, but maybe you'd like to stick it to yourself and think about what's really important. Lord, may the words of our mouths and meditations of our hearts